greetings and welcome to another LGR 486 upgrade thing. And yeah, I've got Windows 3.1 going on here. It has served me well for a few years now, but it's time for the upgrade we've all been waiting for, or perhaps not, but I don't know, I've been kind of waiting for it. It's always been my goal to install Windows 95 on here, at least for a bit. I've got different installations set up on different compact flash cards for this machine, so I'm not going to be sticking with 95 permanently, but for this video, okay, we've got Windows 95, complete in the box, still sealed. This will be quite an experience. I've never actually unboxed a Windows 95 before. I've only ever had CD-ROMs and floppy disks just on their own, but this right here, oh, this was such an exciting product in the mid-90s. Holy nuts. The impact that this had on computing, pop culture, just generally everything, it cannot be understated. We'll get into some of that, but yeah, I want to unbox this, install it, test everything out on a 486, which that alone is going to be interesting. I very rarely run 95 and a 486, but as you can see, it does only need a 3D6DX or higher, technically, with 4 megabytes of RAM, 45 megs of hard disk space, and VGA or higher. And this right here is a 486 100 megahertz machine. It's been upgraded many times over the years. This is the LGR wood grain 486, constantly evolving. In fact, it most recently had a new skin applied to it, all fresh new wood grain. Yeah, you can see that over on my Blurbs channel. The old wood grain was getting pretty ratty and needed some updating. But yeah, it's all refreshed with new wood grain and a whole bunch of upgrades we've applied to it. So I think it is very much ready for the most exciting upgrade of 1995, Windows 95. While I do have this lovely sealed box here for it, which we are going to open, this is the CD-ROM version of it. And well, it was also released on floppy disk, 3.5-inch floppies, so you had the upgrade version of it available on floppy and CD. But if you were to get the version of this that was for new PCs without Windows, you could only get this on 3.5-inch floppy, at least at first here in the US at retail. Of course, there were full CD versions of Windows 95 distributed later as OEM releases and some other things in different territories, as well as plenty of upgraded versions, OSR 1, 2, 2.1, 2.5 and such. But yeah, I have not installed Windows 95 from floppies since high school, so I think it's been long enough to forget the pain and want to experience it again, so let's do that. So long, Windows 3.1 for now. And it's on to 1995 with Windows 95. Let's get this sucker unsealed and enjoy the mid-90s. Yes, it is August 24th, 1995, a Thursday, and this has just launched, hitting retail at $209.95 for the full version of it. Or this one, being the upgrade-only version, was $109.95 being the suggested retail price for this in the box. To get the computer you've always wanted, click here. That start menu, the start button, it was more or less the mascot for Windows 95, and my goodness, was it exciting. Really, the whole start menu itself, it deconstructed how I knew to use a PC. I'd really only used Windows 3.1 in terms of GUIs at the time, and then to have this start menu, just rethink the whole thing, tear it all down, build it back up into something fresh. That was pretty darned exciting to me. This is also the first version of Windows on CD-ROM, so that itself was pretty awesome. CD-ROM drives were becoming not fully ubiquitous by 1995, but pretty darned expected in a new PC. I didn't have a CD-ROM until 1997, but that was just me. Anyway, this came on CD-ROM, but of course, the floppy version was very much prevalent, and as mentioned earlier, if you wanted the full 4 PCs without Windows version, not just the upgrade one, you could only get it on floppy, and finding that one nowadays is expensive and pretty hard to come by. But these right here, even sealed, 30 or 40 bucks, at least at the time of making this video. Also worth noting that this one comes with the Internet Explorer Starter Kit. So that actually adds, Internet Explorer. It did not originally come with the very first release of Windows 95, but it's inside here on the CD, I presume. Or if you had the floppy one, it had an additional 6 discs for that kit with Internet Explorer and Internet Things, in addition to the 13 for just the operating system, which we're gonna try to install here in a bit. But yeah, for now, let's just get this dang thing opened. How I dreamed of this moment so much back then. Oh, I wanted Windows 95 so bad, it was quite frankly absurd. But here we go, 27 years later. Ooh, and there we go. Oh, we got the, okay, so it is a separate disk. So there's the Internet Explorer starter kit, but here is Windows 95 in a delightful cardboard sleeve with a CD key on the back. Don't lose this number. I won't. Let's get this thing open. Oh yeah, look at that. Well, isn't that a pleasant looking disk? So yeah, this is just the upgrade, so this relies on you having a previous Windows installation ready to go, which we do, Windows 3.1. And then, you know, there were plenty of Windows 95 full distributions on CD-ROM, but those were the OEM ones or OSR versions, which is OEM service release. And those were either packed in with computers that you would buy new, or you would get them directly from Microsoft as like a system builder license, at least on the initial launch. Internet Explorer Startup Kit. Easy way to get on the internet. Oh man. Don't know if we'll be using this. I don't really have any use for this at all. Oh yeah, their old slogan. Where do you want to go today? I want to go to Windows 95 land. So yeah, just registration here. Win a free trip to Hawaii or Florida. Wonder who won that. And this colorful sheet. Oh man, AOL. 50 whole hours free. Oh my goodness. AOL for Windows 95, featuring Internet Explorer. All right. I always just miss that channel listing right there. Is it AOL 3 here, maybe? Looks like 3. And the Internet Explorer Starter Kit, I believe this is also known as the Jumpstart Kit. Why explore the internet? Well, most people come to the internet out of sheer curiosity. Maybe you've heard the hype, read a newspaper article, or heard about it from friends or coworkers. Communications, publications, entertainment, education, shopping, software, employment, porn. I don't know if it'll ever catch on, but it sure does seem like an exciting place to be. And finally, we've got a lovely looking Windows 95 manual. With 95 pages? Really? So what is new in Windows 95? Well, a new and improved interface, the start button and taskbar. Incredible. Windows Explorer. No more file manager. Long file names up to 255 characters, if I recall. Not just the 8.3 anymore. Improved game and multimedia support. Yes. I was so excited for like real games on Windows 95. It got even better when they added DirectX and Direct3D and stuff, but yeah, you had OpenGL and software rendering here. It was so cool. Plug and play hardware compatibility, or plug and pray. Sometimes it works. We'll see if it does in our 486. 32-bit preemptive multitasking, more or less. Microsoft Exchange and Microsoft Network, yeah, their own online and internet type of things. Email, faxes, MSN being their ISP, but yeah, there was just an awful lot of stuff added here. So much of it that continues to this day in some form or another. This established so much of the modern PC OS. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about how bare bones it was in a way, especially without this right here. Like no Internet Explorer, no DirectX or Direct3D until June of 1996. No USB either, that was still in development in 95. The install CDs weren't even bootable, still requiring a boot floppy for a standalone install. Yet at the same time, Windows 95 was such a wildly improved product compared to 3.1, and the hype was out of control. The marketing alone, man, if you were around then and glanced at a TV, magazine, or newspaper, chances are high you saw 100 different Windows 95 ads. And it's no surprise, Microsoft spent between $200 and $300 million on the ad campaign, Yeah, massive summer blockbuster ad money spent on an operating system launch. Just nuts. And the bulk of it was spent on TV commercials with the iconic Rolling Stones Start Me Up song playing throughout, because start menu lols. Yeah, that one song alone was rumored to cost $14 million, but it turns out that was just a rumor. The real price was more like $3 million, but either way, it wasn't chump change. With the story being that Bill Gates personally asked Mick Jagger how much it cost to license the track, and Jagger threw out something like $3 million, thinking it was absurd, and Gates would say no, but nope. Microsoft rolled the Stones a fat wad of cash and used the crap out of that song in all their marketing, including that huge launch event in Redmond, Washington, with 5,000 guests and 9,000 Microsoft employees, hosted by Jay Leno and televised live via satellite to launch events and retailers everywhere. And then there was this infamous cyber sitcom released on VHS, a 60-minute Windows 95 video guide produced by Microsoft and GT Interactive, featuring Friends stars Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry, which were unbelievably huge at the time. Yes, this is somehow real, and yes, it is painful to watch, as you'd imagine. It's great.
We'll copy the drivers off the CD onto the hard disk.
So you mean I can plug and play every printer in the world?
No, for older hardware, legacy hardware we call it, you install a printer yourself.
Oh, so that means we have to use that very confusing control panel icon like on old Windows?
No, now we have Printer Installation Wizard.
Well, that's more inspiring than printer installation ogre.
Apparently there was even an interactive CD-ROM version, which, yeah, I don't have and I don't think I want. So anyway, advertising for 95 was excessive, perhaps even off-putting, but the results spoke for themselves. And take, for example, that in 1995, around 60 million personal computers had been sold worldwide. Yet Microsoft sold 40 million copies of Windows 95 in its first year on the market between retail and OEMs. Utterly ridiculous. So with all that out of the way, I think it's high time we see what all the fuss was about and install it from 3.5-inch discs. Place your bets now on whether or not we complete a full installation without any corrupted media. So, first step here is to run the setup program off of disk 1, which kicks off ScanDisk to ensure the hard drives are ready to go, which they are, but after that is a message I wasn't expecting, recommending we quit installing from DOS and load up Windows to install Windows. I mean, sure, if it's recommended, why not? So it's back into 3.11 last time and initiating the setup process that way, which promptly asks for insertion of disk 2. And after choosing a drive and directory, we're given the option to save our existing MS-DOS and Windows files, which creates a couple of little files that should allow us to uninstall Windows 95 should we decide to go back. Something I don't believe I've ever tried. After that, we're provided the standard, typical, portable, compact, and custom Windows 95 install options, and it's gotta be custom. I want every last bite of 1995 goodness I can get. Although it is not absolutely everything available, since this floppy version does not include things like 3D screensavers, sound effects, and MIDI files. Not to mention the fun stuff folder is completely missing. We'll have to grab all that from the CD later. Another floppy thing of note is this copyright warning popping up if your particular disks have already been used to install Windows before. It still lets you install the OS, but it just fills in the name, company, and private details used during whoever initially installed it, with no option to change it. Awkward. And finally, it asks about networking cards and protocols. Note that it does not include a TCP/IP stack by default. That's something you have to add yourself here. An amusing marker of just how fresh the internet and its protocols still were back then. And with all that, so begins the main file transfer process. Now, on-screen notes from Microsoft state it'll likely take anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes to complete, and well, we're off to a great start. Oh no! What the heck? Really? So that's fun. The whole setup process continued playing an error sound on loop the entire time. Initially annoying, sure, but I made the best of it. Okay, enough distractions. Gotta continue the installation. There are still 9 more disks to get through, at least on this one. Some of the later releases had almost 30 floppies, but anyway, with every passing disk and swap message, I grew increasingly paranoid that something was gonna go wrong. I mean, how often do you run into messed up floppies installing a single old game, much less an entire OS? But I was worrying for nothing. It went off without a hitch. With lucky number 13 finishing up, I breathed an audible sigh of relief. And this part of the process took roughly 35 minutes to complete too, so right in the range predicted, although overall with the initial setup and post-install configuration stuff included, the total time came to just over an hour for everything, not including diversions for mixing error message music. And as a reward, we're greeted with that lovely original Windows 95 startup splash screen. I always got so excited seeing that as a kid. Bring on that Microsoft sound. Oh, well that's disappointing. It turns out that instead of the fantastic Brian Eno Windows 95 theme, it plays the Windows 3.1 ta-da wave since it's kept our old settings intact. Gotta fix that crap straight away. There we go. All is right with the world. A fun fact that Brian Eno startup sound there was actually composed on a Mac. According to him, he has never used a PC in his life and he just doesn't like them. Fantastic. And yeah, here is the raw Windows 95 experience as it was in 1995. Welcome to Windows 95. Did you know you can use your right mouse button to drag files? So yeah, this is a nice little thing here to introduce you not only to the new Windows help system, but just generally learn Windows 95. What happened to my program groups? What happened to File Manager? It's actually still there. It's just sort of been replaced as well. Yeah, all of these new things that you can do, or new ways to do old things. We do have some things left over from Windows 3.1, but for the most part it does a good job of replacing stuff. We do have a holdover from Windows 3.0. Reversi is still here from when we had that installation going. But yeah, Windows Explorer instead of File Manager is doing that thing it does by default that I never liked, where it gets rid of the extensions. So I always uncheck that hide extensions because I like to have them on there. But anyway, all kinds of new stuff to do in Windows Explorer. This was such a massive upgrade from File Manager, which it's still in here somewhere. Yeah, in fact, we can still open Program Manager. It either kept it from the upgrade or installs it just in case you still want it. So you have this really messed up version of Windows 3.1's Program Manager in here. I remember first discovering that this was the case, again in high school when I was installing Windows 95 or tasked with installing 95 on various school computers and upgrading them from 3.1. But yeah, at least we do still have things like Canyon.mid, or at least we would if the MIDI player was working. Okay, so that's one thing I've had some issues with. Just going to my computer here, another new thing. Anyway, yeah, the sound card I have in there is the Orpheus. It uses this Crystal plug-and-play codec. MIDI totally works in DOS games, but I haven't been able to get it going in Windows. These are some drivers that it found some plug-and-play drivers. Actually, sound was working when I first installed Windows, so hey, plug-and-play worked without much praying, but only partially. I had to install those drivers, and even now it's still not 100%. But yeah, with something like Doom here, it's gonna work just fine, at least with the wavetable MIDI that's on the card. Bit of a slow start. Come on, computer. There we go. But yeah, MIDI's working here. bits of lag, for sure. But you know, that's a wavetable. Maybe there's just some weirdness with this particular combination of things. And I said AdLib isn't responding. Interesting. That could just be a limitation of the sound card, the drivers I'm using. In fact, yeah, looking it up on the website for the Orpheus, it does mention that there might be some weirdness in 95. That is just this particular card and software configuration. Yeah, your regular old Sound Blasters and Pro Audio Spectrums and whatever else works great in 95. And has a lot of those drivers just built in. Like, it'll just detect that crap straight away most of the time, as long as it's nothing too exotic. And yeah, being able to run my favorite DOS games from within Windows, not having to reboot into DOS mode or anything like that, it was always nice. Let's die. Yeah, when configured correctly, DOS under Windows 95 works very well. In fact, it's often my preferred way of running DOS things, at least later 90s things. You know, if you just want to open up the prompt, you have that right here. You can go full screen, get a more traditional DOS-like experience like that. You have a DOS 7, well, that says Windows 95, but DOS 7. And yeah, if you want to reboot actually into DOS mode, this doesn't have any Windows stuff going at all. So yeah, the nice mixture of Windows and DOS is very useful. That being said, it's not like Windows 95 is just sort of an application running on top of DOS. I don't know all the specifics there, but I do know it's not that simple. There is more going on. Unfortunately though, because we installed it from floppy disk, we don't have absolutely everything. This is all we get in the media folder, just the Microsoft sound, and that's all. And most unfortunately, none of the 3D screensavers. Ah, dang it, man. Like, those are pretty part and parcel to Windows 95. That's just, you know, you gotta have those. Well, you can change the appearance, make things ridiculous. Nope, that's hideous. We still have easy access and compatibility with Windows 3.1, you know, 16-bit programs, your entertainment packs, and Maxis games, in my case in particular. I was always so hopeful that my old Maxis games would still work, and they do. Yeah, dude. Being able to still have compatibility with these, quite nice. Ooh, we got WordPad instead of Write, a relatively capable word processor, considering what we're coming from with 3.1. And then, of course, Paint instead of Paintbrush. Very similar functionality, but with expanded usability and capability. And messed up my own name there, but yeah, you can just do whatever. And oh man, it's really annoying me that I don't have like my favorite screensavers and sound effects and MIDI files and things like that. So I'm curious if I can just install them directly from the CD version, or what? Because I know that you can go into this add remove programs here and then add things to the Windows setup. The thing is, I've already added everything that was available in the floppy disk version. So, you know, there's no option. Even when I select the Windows files that I have on the hard disk, the only thing it comes up with is this document templates thing. So let's just see what happens when we get the CD-ROM going here. It did not autoplay. That was a new feature of 95 as well, but we can just force that. Yeah, got the tour, Microsoft Exposition. I don't even remember what that is. Oh, okay, multimedia catalog. Crap. Good old Hover, cool video clips. Let's see if we can do this though. Add or move. This is what I'm curious about right here. I don't think it's gonna let me. That sucks. I mean, I could just copy things over manually, but yeah, I was hoping that it would let me just install the extra things. That being said, let's just go to where we all want to go, the fun stuff folder. So we have the game Hover here. We have some sample pictures, like this lovely Windows 95 bitmap, which, heck yeah. And let's see, videos, yes, here we go. So we have these, I guess, lower res versions and also this high performance versions. So you have Good Times, Bad Times by Edie Brickell. Music video here. Yeah. We have a trailer for Rob Roy. Weirdly, this always confused me as a kid. Like, what? What the heck? We got Weezer's Buddy Holly, of course.
Happy Days.
We got these Windows animations by Bill Plimpton. Yeah, man. Good stuff. Such memories. It was just amazing being able to see this kind of multimedia, full motion video and everything on your computer. Holy crap. Weezer was always my favorite though. I mean, yeah, I had no idea how in the heck they made this, getting themselves into Happy Days. I've seen some making of, like, behind the scenes things since then, of course. It's a fascinating process, but yeah, what awesome stuff. And of course, Hover. I mean, come on now. Oh dear. Well, it's playable. Of course, no music here either because it's MIDI and that's not working in Windows for whatever reason. Let's see if we can go full screen. Okay, well, yeah. It's actually, well, a little bit worse, but hey, whatever. I would have been happy with this back in the day, and I was. Daggone it. Yeah. And I got stuck. Yeah, the entire point of this really was to just show off the game making, graphical capabilities, performance, and all that kind of stuff under Windows. You know, not having to go into DOS to do something like this. Seeing this kind of thing run in a Windows environment was honestly pretty darned impressive. This is before DirectX, Direct3D, Direct Sound, any of that stuff. That wasn't until after Windows 95 launched. There it is. Oh, good old Hover. Alright, so I really wanted to get those stupid 3D screensavers going, and I thought, okay, I could just copy over the files and it would work, right? Well, it turns out not exactly. Copying them over from another installation just led to them not working at all. So that got me wondering, okay, was it really that the floppy disk version didn't include the screensavers, or is the hardware here just not supported and it knows that and didn't give me the option? So I went back to the CD-ROM upgrade disk that we unboxed earlier and started that installation process just to see, and it didn't show up there either. Turns out those particular screensavers are just not part of the original RTM release, and included on OSR 2 or higher. Whatever though, I went ahead and completed the Windows 95 installation there and installed the rest of the stuff, and hey look, now we have the proper registration information to me now instead of whoever owned that floppy disk version. Not only that, but it installed all the other sound schemes that I was kind of hoping we would get. So yeah, you got your jungle theme right there. The Musica scheme. Robots, I always remember liking this one. And Utopia. Yeah, I remember using that one a lot too. Well, anyway, it turns out what I needed to do to get the screensavers working was actually copy over some OpenGL files that neither the floppy version or the CD version installed, because again, those are only on OSR 2 or higher. They show up in that installer just fine. It's not the original release. It totally works now. It's just extremely slow. So video hardware, processor, hard drive, you know, whatever. It's not exactly the most optimized for OpenGL screensavers, but what I don't care. It's all dithered and slow, but I like it regardless. Heck yeah, flying Windows logo. Always like that one. Of course, pipes, which I believe this was also in a previous version of Windows NT as well. Obviously 3D text, a staple of doctors and dentist offices everywhere for like a decade and a half. And my favorite, 3D maze. Sure, it runs slow and well, I don't really care. This screensaver was always such a fun thing to watch as a kid. Always wished I could control it. I've seen some like homebrew versions that people have kind of hacked together where you can control it, but Yeah, no, it's just a maze. You watch it complete itself with the little rat running around in there somewhere, and you occasionally get it flipping over like that right there. Ah, it's great. It's great! OpenGL doing its thing, even in software rendering, is fantastic. Anyway, that's a whole lot of the Windows 95 experience that we've experienced. Other than like, networking, the email, faxes, going online. I mean, I just don't have any networking stuff in this machine right now. And Briefcase, that's just for synchronizing files between like a desktop and a laptop, other systems, whatever. One of the other things though that I have to go into here is the Microsoft Plus companion for Windows 95. It really feels incomplete without it. This right here is kind of a necessity in my opinion. It just, I mean, you got to put it on there. You get things like the internet, but also 11 classic audiovisual themes, programs like System Agent and Drive Space, and the Legend 3D Pinball Space Cadet. It's a shame they didn't put a screenshot of that on the back. It's a real selling point. I'll never know why they didn't put that. It's just a little text blurb. Anyway, let's unbox this and install and enjoy. Yeah, also sealed. Never actually opened one of these. To be honest, only ever had copies of a copy of a copy of it. Or it would come pre-installed. All right, some familiar looking stuff. Yeah, this was released for $50 shortly after Windows 95 itself, and acted as sort of an expansion pack to Windows 95. Honestly, it feels like maybe this stuff could have been included on the CD, but whatever. How pleasant of an orange. There was also a Plus pack for kids. I might have a copy of that one around somewhere, but yeah, this is the main one. Desktop themes, visual enhancement, System Agent, enhancements to drive space compression, Internet Explorer. So yeah, if you didn't have that Internet Explorer whatever kit in your version of Windows 95, then you can get it here too. Dial-up networking server, ooh, and of course, 3D Pinball. The demo version of Full Tilt Pinball from Maxis. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get this sucker installed. Welcome to the internet setup. You'll need a modem. I don't have one. So, cool. We now have the rest of Microsoft Plus going though, so it begins with the desktop themes. My goodness, these bring back memories. Like good old Dangerous Creatures here. Inside your computer, Leonardo da Vinci, more Windows, Mystery, Nature, Science, Sports, 60s USA, Golden Era, Travel, Windows 95. And every single time you click on one of them, it has to import, I guess, just the background? I don't know. It's taken a little bit of time for every single one of these on this 486. So, it's trying, Wow. Kind of puts a damper on just randomly going through them all, huh? Yeah, I think we gotta go with inside your computer. Always liked everything about this one. And we'll need to restart the machine to use the other things, but I'm gonna take that opportunity to shut down fully. I forgot about that sound effect. But anyway, yeah, just to show this right here, because it is an AT hard on-off power supply and everything. So you get this now safe to turn off your computer message. You have to physically turn it off because yeah, it can't just switch off the computer on its own. There's no soft power switch on this kind of older machine. By the time we got a 95 machine in 1997, it had soft power on off, and I was like, dang it, where's that cool message? And yeah, it does add the this Microsoft Plus splash right there, and you get different customized splash screens depending on what you install. You can get Internet Explorer one, Microsoft Plus one, different OEM versions will have logos on there, but I never really liked this one. I just like the original, so I'll probably put it back. All right, so it has installed the internet over here, which, yeah, same thing we saw earlier that we can't do anything about. Don't have a modem. The System Agent, or what is that, the scheduler, I never liked this either. I mean, there were useful things. You could have it automatically scan disk defrag, whatever. But, I mean, I can't wait Gotta go to Space Cadet 3D Pinball. Again, not gonna get any music because of the dang MIDI not working, but you know. Like, we should at least have that Crystal FM for FM synthesis, but it just doesn't work. MPU 401, I thought that was just for the game port, but we got these other media files in here now. We can at least try. Yeah, Passport. This came with 95. Hey, all right. Well, awesome. Definitely should have activated that earlier. Okay, let's go back to Space Cadet. Now we got some daggone music. Ah. So much better. Full tilt. That's proper. Man, still wish I had FM, but whatever. Well, at this point, now that everything's working quite well and just going through a bunch of Windows 95 related memories I have, anybody remember the Duke Nukem themes that came with Atomic Edition? Yeah, you got different backgrounds and sound effects and screensavers and all kinds of good Duke Nukem related stuff. Got the little stripper animation, little eyeball cursor. That's supremely stupid.
Hello.
All these screensavers. The body parts one where,
Hello.
yeah, random jibs and monster bits just go falling down. Ah, memories. Well, let's keep the memories going with some games and whatnot. And yeah, I've got 5 actually going in the multi-CD-ROM changer we have. As a reminder, these are the specs of the LGR Woodgrain 486 as it is now. And sure, I run Duke 3D and Doom and Commander Keen and Jazz Jackrabbit and stuff all day long on this machine. It's well equipped for that kind of thing. However, when we start getting into Windows 95, that opens up a whole new territory of stuff. So let's begin with one of my favorites, one of my key early Windows 95 memories, LoadRunner Online Mad Monk's Revenge. My Uncle Mark had this on his Windows 95 computer. Really, possibly the first Windows 95 machine I spent a whole big chunk of time on.
Sierra.
Always loved that little guy. Yes. Music is always highly memorable with this game. Well, so far so good. It's running perfectly fine, which I expected. I could actually run this in Windows 3.1, but yeah. Or at least you could LoadRunner, the one before this, The Legend Returns. Ah, crap. Well, anyway, next CD you have in here, Age of Empires. Now, I know for sure that I have never tried playing this on a 486. This is from 1997, so very much meant for Pentium class machines. Well, it's trying. It at least got the video to play. Well, it's not actually as bad as I thought it would be, but it's not ideal either, of course. Totally would have played this if this is the only system I had to play this on, because I just like this game so much. But yeah, you can see it's pretty laggy. And of course, I am just running this in 640 by 480. No point in increasing resolution beyond that on this machine. But yeah, I'm gonna say this is playable, all things considered. Obviously, it would get a whole lot worse once you get a whole lot of action going on, which is gonna be a good chunk of the game, but dude, Age of Empires on a 486. That's a first for me. So I was gonna run the Need for Speed Special Edition, but I know that can go on a 486 and run through DOS. Yeah, I've already experienced that. However, Need for Speed 2, that's a bit more of a tall ask. This one actually put up a warning during the installation saying, hey, your processor is not gonna fly. But you can install it anyway if you want to. So I said, sure. I mean, hey, FMV working. Oh, oh no. Well, all those menus. Oh, it's trying so hard. Okay. Oh yeah, wow. Oh, that's a bit of a thing, huh? Oh, well. All right, so I've put all of the settings as low as they will go. I mean, hey, we're on a 486, a VLB 46.
2, 1, go!
I'm just impressed that it runs at all. Wow. Input lag is absurd, but of course so is everything here. Can I crash this guy? Yeah! Still got it. Okay, let's see what happens if we put this sucker in full screen. Ooh. Honestly, it's not much worse. Again, just impressed that it does it at all. I mean, this is Need for Speed 2 on a 486. You don't do this. Oh, but that's the power of Windows 95, I guess. It lets you try. That's the fun part. Wow. Yeah. Coolest 486 slideshow ever. Alrighty, well, I suppose I'm going to call this video here, even though I could very easily go on for hours more, just going back and revisiting old Windows 95 memories, stuff that's just intrinsically linked to this OS and that era, especially with educational and edutainment things. Your encyclopedias like Encarta and Compton's, of course. Tons of kids' games like Putt Putt Goes to the Moon and Buzzy Explores the Airport and Widget Workshop and Sim Town, and all kinds of other things for me that come to mind with Windows 95, like Pod, Hellbender, Deadly Tide, the Microsoft Arcade and Revenge of Arcade kind of packs. Not to mention just even Microsoft Office and early internet browsing in general on different browsers and creating web pages in Front Page Express and just so many memories. I mean, that barely even scratches the surface. This is really a golden time in my own experience, growing up in the 90s. And revisiting Windows 95 at all, especially in its original form like this, even though you can never really go back. I mean, it's just not the same, but it's a fun little visit nonetheless, and I hope that you enjoyed watching. Do definitely put some of your memories in the comments, please. I love reading those stories about how you first experienced Windows 95, what kind of computer it was on. Was it at school? Was it a library? Was it your own computer? Was it a friend's or relatives or just whatever? Any of those little details all add up into something that becomes a very rich core memory set. And often for me, that does rely on the operating system itself. I don't know. It's just, it wraps all of those memories in a very GUI focused way, if that makes sense. And if you did enjoy this episode, then definitely check out some of my others on Windows 95 builds and computers and software and games and stuff of this era. It's something I love covering and will continue to do so here on LGR in the future. And as always, thanks for watching.